Hey everybody, today's adventure takes us to the Dali Museum in St. Petersburg. This is quite an interesting spot we're in here. I'm going to turn this thing around so you can kind of see. But we've got like an airport over here. Guys taking off right now. Hard to tell if this is making it into the camera, but might be blocked by those trees over there. Got all these beautiful boats. What a spot, and parking was only $5, so can't complain. Anyway, let's get inside there and see what there is to see.
Hola, welcome to the Museum of Dali. There is many academic man and woman is talk all the time of Dali. Me is always wrong. This morning you hear the true story of Dali and his art. And you see the greatest paintings you have ever seen. Unless, of course, you live among the paintings of Raphael and Vermeer. But even so, Dali will make you forget. You will see.
First thing you do is go up to the third floor. You can actually see the exhibits. The first painting you see when you go into the museum is the first one that Reynolds and Eleanor Morse, who founded this museum, purchased from Dali. So that's why we're kind of starting with this painting, which is probably not at the beginning of his career by any stretch. So after we see that initial painting, we actually do get to see some of Dali's early work here. One thing that I think is really neat about going to an art museum is that you get to see the actual textures, the paint strokes up close and personal. It's pretty wild to think that you can be literally within touching distance of these things. And here's a self-portrait that he did during those early days of young Dali. See, in these early years, his painting style was relatively conventional compared to what he was going to go on to do. You see a little bit of the Impressionism popping up in this painting here. View of Catechese. I'm going to butcher the name of this. This is the name of that painting. I love the fact that they give you this display these paintings in chronological order, because it really does give you a feel for the evolution of him as an artist. One thing you should definitely take advantage of is using the app. They have this augmented reality which pops up on some of the paintings, so you get some really kind of neat effects going on that you wouldn't get otherwise. After Dali felt like he had a handle on more traditional forms of art, he went into this anti-art phase of his career around 1927-28, some of which use different objects or materials, things like cork and sand, to create some of these pieces. And over here, one of the pieces, you'll notice that would that be the left ear has been removed. Obviously that's a reference to Van Gogh. And then you also will see, this is actually an image of a bird, and you can kind of see the beak in display there. Then down over here we have a little scene, and I am told that underneath, I don't know if they did an x-ray or something in this painting, but they found there was something, I think it's like a coffin or something like that. So you can see it's a, I don't know if this would be called pointillism. Started to emerge in his art. Just one example among many of the juxtaposition of different things. Here you have a telephone in a dish with 3 grilled sardines at the end of September. A big part of the surrealistic movement was just mixing up different things that you don't usually see together, and things kind of morphing into other things. And some of this, you know, is based on things like dreams and kind of these subjective, abstract concepts where reality is getting morphed into different things in the subconscious. And here we have some surrealist sculpture. This is the Venus de Milo with drawers. Famous piece of sculpture into a piece of furniture. And it kind of made reference to the joke about a chest of drawers, if you will. Also, there was a mention here of a metaphor of the way Freud's psychoanalysis opens hidden areas of the unconscious, kind of like the way these drawers are opening up. Get the impression here that Dali wasn't a fan of bureaucrats. This one's called Average Atmosphere Cephalic Bureaucrat, an act of milking a cranial harp. That's a mouthful. A little later here in this series, you have the atmospheric skull sodomizing a grand piano. And then going onward to this one. Skull with its lyric appendage leaning on the night table, which should have the exact temperature of a cardinal bird's nest. You know, with this piece you have this mouth, and it's also the back of a woman sitting there, and kind of just the use of shadows too, and different things popping up, trees popping out of the head there. Could also be hair. Mustache could be a waterfall. I better not touch that. Glad they got glass on there. Anyway, just wanted to point out some of those little elements. So this is Slave Market with the disappearing bust of Voltaire, and here you can see, if you look into his eyes, you see 2 people inside.
Masterwork has the classic aspects of still life painting.
One thing I wanted to mention about this piece, which is called Living Still Life, is that it employs something that's called the golden ratio, the golden mean, the divine ratio. And what is meant by that is I kind of drew up a little chart here. Years ago, a friend of mine turned me on to this. And he was talking about its use in Bela Bartok's symphonies. But at any rate, the way this works is this was used in Greek architecture quite a bit too. The golden ratio is that you take a length, which is C in this example here, and what you want to do is split C up into two different parts, A and B, such that if you divide B by C, that will be equal to the ratio of dividing A by B. That is known as the golden ratio. I think there's an idea, there's something kind of special about that that would be particularly aesthetically pleasing to people. So now I'm guessing in this piece, because they claim that they employed that in this piece here, I'm guessing this area would be C, this top area here, and then you break up this into what was it, B and A, so that that area divided by this area is equal to this area divided by that whole area there. Just my guess, but they do say he employed it in the creating of this painting and some of his other works as well. Dali's wife. See a little stamp-sized Abraham Lincoln. They're standing next to it. And as you got it, you start to realize that the thing is a portrait of Abraham Lincoln as well. So it's kind of like a fractal, you know. Very neat effect. One thing that I think is pretty interesting about going to art museums is just the sheer scale of some of the pieces. You don't realize, you know, some things like the melting clocks might be on a very small canvas, and you know, in a book they all look like they're about the same size, and then you realize you have these magnificent pieces here, the scale of which is just enormous. So this is the Discovery of America by Christopher Columbus. Of course, a lot of people might have an issue with that title these days, in light of acknowledging that a lot of people were in America before Europeans came over. I guess one indication that something you're looking at in the book maybe has is of a larger scale, and you might realize it's just the level of detail that you see in some of these works. It might be kind of a giveaway. But there's nothing like seeing these things in person. And it's all so well worth it to take the tour where they can give you some actual insight into the meaning behind some of this imagery that's going on here. It's his work, Dali's work, is just stacked full. It's very densely populated with all kinds of ideas and messages and meanings and imagery. And here we have the hallucinogenic Toria door. I know this because I've got it in the form of a clock in my office. This is one of those more enormous paintings. You can see all the insects popping up in here. It's kind of like Grand Central Station, the different ideas of his. Pointillism going on. I don't know if that's really the right term for it. And then you have these figures here which look like faces, and they also look like robes, and morph into other things. Up here you have these busts, and you can kind of see faces in there as well, nose and mouth. It all kind of blends in together. And there's his wife up in the top there. A lot of things, a lot of elements of his work kind of come together in this piece. And then over on this side, another one of the really large pieces. And this piece is the Economical Console. Of course, Dali has to make an appearance here. This piece, Geopoliticus, Child Watching the Birth of the new man. And it looks like he's kind of coming out of the globe. Like maybe this is some sort of nod that the new man is going to be a more global type, person more in touch with the world as a whole, as opposed to kind of more nationalistic tendencies. I don't know. Just guessing. And now for the money shot. The disintegration of the persistence of memory. So I just wanted to show you this magnificent view that we have over here. Just walked out of the main museum area. And this is what you see. No proper museum is complete without a wonderful cafe, and they definitely have one here at the Dali Museum. I love eating here, and bookstores over here. So anyway, let's go grab a bite to eat and see what there is. So I ended up ordering the salmon caprice, which will be coming out in a moment, and also this wonderful sangria. And since the indoor seating was all filled up, I have to sit outside, and it can get kind of hot and humid in Florida. I'm thankful for this nice, refreshing sangria on ice. So my food has arrived. Looks really great. I've got the salmon here. I'm going to grab a little bit of some of these different elements in here, the tomatoes, the vinaigrette, and maybe the basil type sauce. Let's see what this is like. Man, that's great. It's got a little bit of saltiness, but not too much. It's actually nice and light. Tasty. I'll try the bread here. This is actually the perfect choice for Florida weather because it's nice and light. It's got some nice flavors going on with the pesto and the balsamic and the salmon and tomatoes. Man, that's great. I recommend this. So when you go outside, of course the magic doesn't end. There are sculptures of Salvador Dali out here. So it's the area where you can go and eat. Bring the things in from, or outside from the cafe, have something. These are actually sculptures created by Salvador Dali. Winged Triton. Some nice quiet little areas here as well. What you're hearing actually are parrots, believe it or not. When I was staying at the hotel in St. Petersburg, someone mentioned that those were parrots. So in the garden here, they've got this egg that you can step into. I'll show you real quick. You see there's a little place for you to sit right there, that little board. Stick your head out over the top. Can you see I'm coming out of an egg here? Don't know if you can see that. So this is my third visit to the Dali Museum, and so far in the bookstore here I have purchased, I know, at least one t-shirt, a clock of the hallucinogenic Toria door, and possibly a book. I know I've got a Dali book, I just don't remember where I got it. But let's see what we can find here. We've got, of course, t-shirts, and then over here some stockings, very beautiful looking. Yes, indeed. And some scarves over here.
The wines.
These cups are pretty neat. Maybe a nice reminder that time is of the essence while you're drinking your coffee. Perhaps some reading material would be appropriate. I would like to get a copy of his book. I think it's called Hidden Faces. Pretty sure that's what it's called. Here we have a variety of crossword puzzles. And if you have any concern that Dali would have had a problem with the commercialization of his art, you don't need to worry about that. Hey there, what's up, dude?
Today, for the first time since being no longer dead, I am looking at the sky. It seems small. Am I getting bigger, or is the universe shrinking? Oh, you are leaving. Before you go, you take a picture with me? Alors, allow me. 1, 2, 3. Very nice. Ooh la la. You see? Would you like me to send you this dream photograph? Follow the directions.
Well, this concludes today's adventure visiting the Dali Museum in St. Petersburg. What a beautiful place. I hope I was able to capture some of the beauty and excitement of the place, the creativity that they put into it. Had a great time. Cafe was also excellent. Enjoyed the cheesecake a little bit later. Anyway, hit like and subscribe, and I will continue to show you some really interesting places. I've got plenty of ideas for future blogs, and hopefully they will only get better as we go. So anyway, thanks for your support. Have a great day. Hope you had fun with me at the Dali Museum. Can you see the trees at the top of that building right there? I just thought I'd point that out. Pretty cool.